Okay, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to this week's Kabbalat Shabbat. Um, and he give me, and now over to Ireene, who's going to give us a Devar Torah, and after that will be David Harris, who's going to daven the Kabbalat Shabbat for us. Ireene.
Thanks, Stuart. Okay, nobody else needs to tell me that I'm all blurred, but perhaps it's a good idea. So, so I'll just give it to Vartera today. This is a thought for Devarim, Shabbat, Chazon, and Av. I want to be a bit positive, although we're in the month of Av and the 9 days, and it's the saddest time in the Jewish calendar. However, thinking the other way, on the first of Av, we are told it's the day that Aharon died, as the rabbi mentioned last week, and the whole nation cried. It's the only exact date of anyone's death recorded in the Torah explicitly. It's in Bamidbar 33, verse 38. Aharon had many positive attributes and was loved by everyone, but his special one was of love. He loved peace and pursued it. When blessing Israel, the Kohanim say, Baruch atah Hashem, who has sanctified us and commanded us to bless his nation Israel with love. It promises us that after all the hardships we've been through, everything stems from love. And we're aware that the main letters of Ahavah are Aleph and Bet in the month of Av. Okay, for 2,000 years, we've been mourning the temple, the loss of the temple. And maybe the love of Tisha B'Av itself is hidden meanwhile. I'll come back to that later. This week's Sedra, Devarim, is the first in the book of Devarim. And in many ways, it is the book of Moshe. For the next several weeks leading up to the Yomim Naraim and Sukkot, the Torah relates and tells us what Moshe said as he prepared to say farewell to the people. It's like he's retelling what happened, but in the first person, from his own perspective, whereas the other books, he's telling what Hashem said. It's from his perspective, but it's not a précis and it's not a repetition. But since one can never accuse Moshe of being self-centered, this kind of swan song of his was far from being one of self-indulgence. On the contrary, he chose every word carefully so that the impact would be great, both to the people present at the time and, more importantly, to us and the generations who listen or read or study the Torah as part of our heritage. Moshe wasn't a historian, and he often jumps from event to event in this book and from topic to topic. Moshe is Moshe Rabbeinu and Moshe Hanavi. He's the greatest teacher that ever lived and the greatest prophet. Good teachers and good prophets are judged by how they give knowledge and advice, and their personal behavior necessarily impacts on the respect they gain and on the effect they have on their students. So if Moshe was the greatest teacher, we need to be challenged to study every word and phrase and even what's between the lines, the message there too, that exists in this parsha and the whole of the book of Devarim. Our rabbis in the Talmud refer to the book of Devarim as the Mishneh Torah. The most common explanation on the meaning of the word Mishnah is that the root is shnei, two, and that could imply that this is a repetition again of the material covered, but it's not so. The word Mishneh also has the same root as the word we say in the Shema every day, V'shinantam, which is translated of, and you shall teach them thoroughly to your children. Different Siddurim say different things. You should teach them diligently, thoroughly, repeatedly to your children. This fifth and last book of the Torah is a gift from Hashem through Moshe to show us what to say and how and when, but it needs intensive effort on our part. The most important part of learning is to learn it again and again. Reading something once doesn't constitute study. You can ask any student that. I saw that when my children tried to do their revision for exams. The volume and depth of knowledge one retains is proportional to the number of times you keep studying it. The main lesson of Devarim is the importance of gaining and retaining life-changing knowledge through ongoing study. Ignorance can be temporary, but knowledge is power. And knowledge is a way of achieving a better understanding of Hashem and what it really is that Hashem wants from us, especially what we need to do in order to end the Galut. The first recollection that Moshe makes in Devarim is the story of the spies. Why does he choose that one? And there are even some differences to that in Bamidbar. In Bamidbar, it says that God initiated the spies going out. And later, it wasn't the tribal leaders who rejected the land, but the people themselves. So the answer is that Moshe chose the way of telling this story because it was relevant for the generation he was talking to, the second generation that came out of Egypt. Bamidbar emphasizes the failings of the leaders, but Devarim shifts this to the responsibility of the people and us. So leading up to Tisha B'Av, our rabbis tell us that it was on Tisha B'Av that the children of Israel spoke ill about the promised land and cried for no reason. And because of this, they not only forfeited the land then, but Hashem decreed that on that same day, hundreds of years later, they would have every reason to cry as they saw the temple in ruins. And the rabbis took a similar stance when they told of the destruction of the temple. The Talmud talks about the corruption of the priests at the time of the Second Temple. And also the rabbi's silence in the story I told you about Hamsa and Bar Hamsa a few weeks ago. Ultimately, we are taught that it was Sinat Chinam, baseless hatred, that led to the destruction of the Second Temple. This message helps us today to learn from mistakes of our leaders and ourselves, and this resonates with us today. Blaming people just doesn't help. We need to move forward. We have to take personal responsibility. So coming back to what I said about love, Rav Kook said that there is one cure for Sinat Chinam, and that is Ahavat Chinam. Let's make Av a season for joy. We look forward to Tu B'Av, the week after Tu B'Shvat, which is joyous. And we are told that at some time in the future, when we're spiritually ready, tradition tells us that the tragedies of Tisha B'Av will transform into holidays of joy. Making every attempt to avoid Lashon Hara and speaking kindly of our friends, neighbors, and people around us, if we do that this week and onwards and forwards, that may be the first step towards that aim. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Ireene. Now it's over to David.